days without food until some special people came to his rescue. OCN's Michelle Miller picks up the story from there.
We were 500 miles behind enemy lines.
Few would argue that Del Wiley's got luck on his side. Not only is he beating cancer at the age of 70, but some 50 years ago he escaped death after being shot down by a Japanese Zero over the South Pacific. For 15 days, Wiley drifted in the ocean until he spotted land.
The people that really saved us was all the people of the Carterets, because they fed us. I'm now talking about the B-17 crew also. They fed us and cared for us for the time we were there, provided us with a canoe as a means of getting back home.
On the day when much of America remembered Pearl Harbor, Wiley remembered his saviors. Sitting side by side with the great-grandson of the chief who rescued him, the memories of his days on the Carteret Islands rush back to him.
I don't know what to say to that. It's beyond description to have him here. It really is.
Del Wiley and his wife met Thomas Rivette for the first time last week in Arizona after he graduated from special naval training. And although he wasn't even born those many years ago, he has grown to admire the castaway.
To be honest, he was one of the first white men that my people came to meet and to live together with. So he was able. We know that you live a different type of lifestyle here, and for him to be able to live our kind of life and to tell it like that is something that we value very much.
He speaks of the books that Wiley has written on his restful 6 months on that beautiful tropical island. But back in 1943, Wiley knew he had to get back to his duty and fight in the war. He and some 9 other shipwrecked men boarded a canoe and set their sights on Guadalcanal and made it. Wiley says it's a debt that he can never repay to the people of the Carteret Islands, but Rivette says his friendship is enough thanks for his people. In Fullerton, Michelle Miller, Orange County News Channel.
And Del Wiley now joins me at the OCN anchor desk. We're very pleased to have him here. Was that the very first time that you'd met the chief's great-grandson?
Oh yes, I didn't even know that he had a great-grandson until he wrote me a letter from Fort Huachuca down in Arizona, where he came to take some training. And yes, that's the first contact I had had with him.
And have you ever been back to that island since that day?
No, I have never been back to the island because it's extremely difficult to get there. And it would have been very expensive. It would have, at the time that I could have gone back, I would have had to have chartered an airplane or something to get me in there. And I wasn't able financially to do that.
If you could go back, though, I'm assuming you'd like to.
Yes, it would be a tremendous thing to be able to go back and visit with some of the people, and some of them still live there that I remember. So, by visiting with Thomas, I was able to determine some of them that are still alive, that were young people when I was there, and that sort of thing. Yeah.
You were there for 6 months.
Yes.
Tell me about your experience. What was it like?
Well, the people there lived a very simple life. They live in grass-built and pole-built buildings, very small. They cook over open fires. With most of their food is boiled, and they cook it on an open fire with a black pot, and it's boiled. They boil green bananas. They boil breadfruit.
And you're lucky that's all they boil, because you said when you first arrived, you weren't at all sure what you were getting into.
No, and during World War II in the highlands of Bougainville and New Guinea in particular, there were still tribes of cannibals living, and even today there are still some cannibalistic tribes in those islands. Life down there has really not changed since World War II. They still live the same way.
And you were welcome. You were welcomed though with open arms.
They welcomed me with open arms, and I had some wounds in my right leg, which they doctored with what they had to work with. Mostly it was coconut milk, because if you think about it, if you open a coconut, the milk inside would be a sterile material.
5 months after you arrived, 5 minutes after, or 5 months, I should say, after you arrived on that island, there was another group of American servicemen, weren't they? And we're looking at a picture right now. Who were these men?
This is a group of 9 men who were the crew of a B-17, and on February 9th of '43 they were scouting the Marshall Islands when 7 Japanese Zeros attacked them, and they were able to fight off and get away from the Zeros, but their plane was so badly damaged by the gunfire that they ended up ditching in the ocean. Now, and they spent also an exact 15 days in rubber boats. There were 9 of them, and they only had 2 rubber boats, so they suffered a lot from foot in face disease, I'm sure, during the time they were in the 15 days. But they drifted into the same island that I had drifted into about 5 months prior.
Became sort of a big party then, didn't it?
Well, sort of. It was. These islands are so very small, and the food supply was so limited that we were unable to keep us all together. So we had to split up the crew, and there were 7 small islands around this lagoon. So we split the crew up and put 2 on each of the several islands, so that the other natives could take care of them and provide them with food. And it worked out very well.
We don't have too much time left, but I wanted you, if you would, to recount for us how it was that you ended up getting off the island.
We arranged to purchase a canoe from one of the natives. We paddled the canoe the full length of, paddled and sailed the canoe, mostly sailed, the full length of Bougainville, and eventually landed on the island of Choiseul, which is south and east of Bougainville. Bougainville was a very heavily occupied Japanese island. Choiseul was lightly occupied by the Japanese. And on Choiseul we were able to contact 2 of the famous Solomon Island coast watchers.
I don't want to close this up without taking a real quick look now at this picture, which is not your plane that you were flying that day in '43, but the plane that was with you that was also shot up, right?
Yes, that day that we flew the mission, where the plane I was in was shot down, was a 2-plane mission. And these photos are of the other plane. It also was attacked by Zeros and shot up very badly. It did get back to the USS, we took off from the USS Enterprise, but while we were gone, it was badly damaged by some bomb hits. A second carrier was with us, the USS Saratoga, and the pilot of that plane was able to land on the Saratoga. And after he landed, he didn't have enough gas to taxi out of the landing area. But the pictures show some of the tremendous damage that the Zeros did to that, and how he was able to get it back to the carrier is a real miracle.
Okay.
I located the pilot of that plane also, and we had a reunion in Annapolis, Maryland, near the Naval Academy last June, and we had a real nice visit.
It's wonderful that you're able to keep in touch with not only your old comrades, but folks from the islands and everything else.
Well, that has, since I retired, I've gone out and found these people and talked with them, and one leads to another and what have you. Because I had lost total track of all of these people while I was earning a living and raising a family.
Right. Del Wiley, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for coming in to talk to us.
Thank you for having me. I hope the story will be interesting.
Absolutely.
For the people.
Thank you very much.
Okay.